Hello, I'm Chuck Webb with Arma Drill Co. I'm here to discuss a few changes that we've made to traditional drill heads. Traditional drill heads have problems. One of the problems is that the door is not always with the head. Our solution is to basically permanently hinge our door to the head itself. We've done this by putting a pin here and putting a tack weld on the pin. If you ever want to get the door loose, you just remove the tack weld and pull the pin out, replace your door. But up until then, you have the door with the transmitter housing itself. The next problem is sludge and stuff getting into the transmitter cavity. The transmitter cavity is designed to protect your transmitter, but if sludge is getting inside, it can actually do damage to your transmitter. What happens most of the time, or a lot of the times, is the transmitter will actually be moved offline. This has personally cost me $10,000 on a grade and line bore that we had to do over in Fort Worth. The next thing is that the sludge itself will get in there and get packed around the transmitter. If it gets packed around the transmitter, it's hard to remove all the mud and sludge. It costs you time and money having one of your employees remove it. The last problem that I see is that the mud gets in there and is really abrasive to the transmitter itself. I've had a couple of drillers tell me about this. The way we have solved these three prominent problems is by sealing the transmitter cavity itself. We've done this by molding urethane into the slots. Urethane is actually in an I formation. The I formation keeps it mechanically bonded so that it cannot push in or push out. The urethane itself acts as a cushion to the transmitter. The transmitter will is wedged into the cushioning as we put it in. That keeps it soft and keeps it cushioned where it can sit there and perform its duty as it needs to be done. We have applied an O-ring around the door to help seal the sludge out from the door. That is basically solving the problems that we're seeing on our drill heads. We've decided not to use bolts to hold our door down. The reason we don't use a bolt is because we're worried about the vibration of the bolts down hole, which means if you lose a bolt down hole, you've lost the transmitter down hole, which costs you a lot of money. Next thing is, if you use a bolt, you have a tendency for your drillers to over-torque on snapping off the heads. What we've done instead is used a lock pin. The lock pin is basically held in by O-rings. The O-rings are compressed going in and expand into cavities once inside the pocket. To put the O-rings on, you just put the O-rings on I use a pick to help me get into the O-ring grooves. At that time, take a slide hammer. We provide a slide hammer, which is real convenient for installing the pins. Close the door, put the pin in, using the slide hammer. That compressed the O-ring as it went in. After the O-rings are in, they expanded out. The only way these pins can come out is if the O-rings get cut. We're now going to remove the lock pins. The lock pin itself is basically held in by the O-rings, as I stated earlier. To remove the O-rings, they have to be cut. So as we're popping it in, it takes a lot of force to pull that out. Now what has happened is the O-rings themselves have been cut. If I get some material, anyway, this is the O-ring material that had been cut as we pulled out the lock pin from the head. The O-ring, the biggest problem we have with this feature is that the threads are going to get damaged. If the threads get damaged, then what we have done is provided two sets of threads. There's one large thread that you normally use. If it gets damaged, then they use a smaller quarter 20 thread to pull out the pin. Once you pull that out, toss the pin and get you a new one.